school for you? What was academics like for you, Jake?
So I tell everybody, like, I cheated the first 3 years of English, so I couldn't read anything going into the fourth grade. They were gonna hold me back. I went to a reading specialist, family reading specialist every day. Third grade summer sucked because I couldn't read. I had to do flashcards every day, see spot run. But as a offshoot of that, like I got heavy into math and the sciences, right? Like I told you, I was big in biology and chemistry and physics, making my own gunpowder, just stuff like that. I mean, I had an engineering household. My dad could build anything he wanted. So as school progressed, I still didn't know how to read real well, and I just focused on math and science, which at the end of the day, I tell everybody you can always hire somebody to do good reading and writing, but it's hard to find good math and science guys. So, I won the University of Washington Science Fair 3 years in a row, got a full college scholarship at the University of Washington in the 8th grade, so math and science is where I hung my hat. Got in the Naval Academy with a 700 SAT score, 240 English. So, it ain't held me back much. Like we were talking about it before, right? Like I just found speech to text. It took me like an hour, 2.5 hours to write like 3 paragraphs, and I just banged out a whole page with speech to text. So
that's awesome, Jake. Everybody has their weaknesses for our listeners out there, and Jake was able to overcome this, not only academically, but into the Navy, which is what we'll talk about later on as a leader and as a warrior. So anyways, Jake, that's awesome, man. So you're in high school at about this time, right? And you've already earned a scholarship.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. My dad did something really unique. He would always tell me, like, I messed up my life by not graduating from college, right? Like I'm driving a truck, and he wouldn't let me go in the truck with him. He said, "You not like I used to love to go." He was hauling logs and go see the rubber tires, skidders, and that stuff, up on the mountain. He wouldn't take me. He said, "You ain't gonna be a truck driver." He said, "You going to college?" He said, "I'm a truck driver. I can't afford college, so you got to figure out how to pay for it." And so it was interesting because I didn't really realize what I had done earning a scholarship in the 8th grade. And then I got to the Naval Academy my freshman year and West Point my sophomore year. But I still felt like I had to hang my hat on athletics. Like that's how I was going to go to school for free. And at the end, I had a couple opportunities to go to college for athletics, but, I want to go to the military. Like I was trying to go be Top Gun. I kind of wish I would have went to West Point because I don't want to be an Army Ranger, Green Beret. Like if I could have got stationed at Fort Lewis, I'd never got out the Army.
It's funny you bring up Top Gun. We had Stu Smith on our last podcast episode. Check out that episode. Also check out Jake. He was on Stu Smith's podcast as well. And Stu brought up good old Top Gun.
Yeah, Top Gun.
How can you not kind of want to be a little bit of Navy pilot after seeing Tom Cruise in action now?
And I love flying. Like I tried to buy a gyrocopter when I was 12. And my mom intercepted me when I was getting ready to send a check off to buy the gyrocopter, right? And so it's just, I always was big into flying. I learned how to fly later in life, and I'm glad I didn't go down that path, even though I promote it a lot now because it's an easy lifestyle, man. My dudes, they fly in the school bus around, making between $375 and $550 a year, working 15 days a month flying school bus, so.
Jake,
but yeah, man, I was in high school.
Quick question for you, Jake. As a guy who, and my dad's side of the family, is the first person to get my bachelor's degree. And I've heard growing up things like, it's just a piece of paper and you don't learn anything worthwhile in college and it's just a waste of money and it's a money trap and all that. My experience in college, in my opinion, was phenomenal. And it was one of the hardest things I ever did just to get my bachelor's. And for our listeners out there, Jake's got his master's. But in my opinion, I think it was well worth it. What's your opinion on people that say, hey, that bachelor's degree is just a piece of paper or whatever it is? What are your thoughts?
So I think the landscape has changed a lot, Jason, in the last, call it 15 years with YouTube and Instagram. If you've seen Jason's Toy World, right? Like Jason's Toy World, right? Like dude, 9 years old, making $30 million a year. Okay. Your ability to make money now is different than it was when we were coming up. I tell everybody, and I'm strong on this one, unless you start the next internet company, which is basically winning the lottery, or you grow up with resources, which if you're going to be the first generation guy to go to college, you're not going to grow up with resources, then you got to start somewhere and at least get you in the door when you got a college degree. Now, I'll say this. Did I learn a lot in college? No. I took computer science, been programming since I was in 7th grade. Did I learn some good stuff in electrical engineering? Yeah. But on the whole, did I learn anything in college? No, not really. If I had my choice, I tell everybody, if I had went to a public school, I would have graduated in 2.5 years because I realized that college is what it is, right? Business school was much the same. You go to top tier business school. I went to Michigan. I learned a lot, but it's really about the relationships that you make at the institution, right? Like that's why all the kids from Harvard right now are griping about having to pay huge tuition because they're saying, listen, the whole benefit of coming to Harvard is meeting my classmates and making lifelong friends that are going to help me in becoming really successful down the road.
Right.
So the benefits of college, I think, they're ancillary benefits that are huge. Like some of my best friends are from college. I'm sure you got some of them, like
right.
just dudes like my guy, Bo Shapp is my guy, was my roommate for 4 years. Chris Weller. Like I got a bunch of dudes, Tom Shear still riding with me, Brian King, like just a bunch of dudes that I grew up with, not to mention like the 2 guys where I played football with for 3 years that were in my buds class.
Right.
So, that's the stuff that's kind of those intangibles. And then, you try to go to the best school you can go to, get the best piece of paper, because at the end of the day, if you're going to a good school, there's going to be other people that are there that are good. And that's just going to lead to better relationships and better success down the road.
Right. And a bachelor's degree can be a prerequisite to a job or an opportunity, much like being airborne qualified and having basic parachutist is a prerequisite to going to Halo school. So it is a stepping stone, but at the same time, what are you going to do with it? And how is it going to help you serve your purpose in life? Or are you just kind of doing it for the title, which is something Jake and I will talk about later, is something we both see as mentors, is people that are going into this world because they want a title or an identity. So Jake, going back to your path up. So you got the scholarship, you're in high school at this point. Where did you go from there?
So I won a state title. I transferred schools my sophomore year. I took a scholarship to go to the number 2 high school in the country, Charles Wright, super elite institution. I went in the 3rd grade, but I beat somebody up every day. I told my dad I want to come back. So he brought me back in the 3rd grade. That was that whole reading debacle. So I go back as a junior, and then, it was the same environment, but my academics were a lot better over there. So, I got to take calculus, chemistry. I don't think I took physics again. I took calculus over there, 2 years of calculus, and I threw a lot of pottery. So I threw pottery 5 hours a day, every day I was there, because no one talked to me the first year I was over there. So I did that. My senior year, I won a state title in wrestling, picked up an Oregon State offer, but by that point, like I was already going to Naval Academy. I had made the choice between sailboats and granite hallways. That was the choice. So I went to Naval Academy, and my senior year, I was still terrified. I couldn't read and write. So I talked them into letting me go to prep school for a year, which was awesome. So, and I showed up at the prep school and didn't realize I was going to military college. So spent the next 3 years in shock.
So Jake, can you explain to our listeners out there what it's like to struggle in something like reading and writing, but excel at such a high level in something like mathematics, hands-on skills, dexterity, athleticism? How did you use those strengths to really help your weaknesses and get to where you're at now?
So I tell everybody, if you got a weakness as major as I have, you better have a plan to deal with it. And so one of the unique things at the Naval Academy, like when you pick a major, you can see all of the classes you got to take. And so I picked computer science because I had been programming. And then there was only 7 reading and writing classes across the whole 4 years. 7 classes. I was going to have to write a paper, do any reading in. So I'm like, okay, how are we going to pass those 7 classes? Okay, we'll take 6 of them in summer school. So I never went anywhere in the summer. I took 2 summer schools, all 3 years that I was there. All 3 years I took those reading and writing classes. So like my first semester, I had a D in English and had a 3.0. So You know, no one said nothing until my sophomore year when one of my professors called me out and got crazy, and I went to learn how to read class. And then I read my first book, Rogue Warrior by Dick Marcinko. And my roommate calls me Red now, so because I read a book. But you know, I got that reading problem fixed. It's just the writing problem is still, you know, it's still a bear. But I tell everybody, you better have a plan. Kind of a segue off of that. So the GMAT requires a writing requirement, right? You got to write 2,000 word essays on the GMAT. And so I studied for the GMAT for about 6 months. I took the SAT 11 times.
11 times.
11 times, because I was trying to get the 450 to qualify for our ROTC scholarship. And I couldn't get above a 420. I got a 420 once, and then normally it was around 280, 300. Okay. So fast forward, I'm going to take the GMAT for business school. You got to write 2,000 word essays. So I worked on this writing stuff for 3 months. And then I realized, like, look, you can work on this all you want. You ain't passing this. So I would take the practice test online, and they would grade me. I'd get like a 0 on the writing assignment. So then I was like, all right, let's just do this the way I know how to do stuff. Let's break rocks. So I just remembered 3 essays, 3,000 word essays, word from word, straight out the Princeton Review book. And then I just changed the nouns on the test and got a 5.5 on the writing requirement.
Coming up with a game plan. Good execution there, Jake.
Absolutely. And didn't change a single word. Literally took the nouns out of the essay that I had remembered and put the noun from the question in there. That's all I changed.
Question, Jake.
Yeah.
Just making maybe a stretch out here, an assumption. Would it be safe to say that maybe that weakness helped strengthen you to who you are today? Or do you think it's always been something that's kind of held you back? What are your thoughts on kind of turning weaknesses into strengths?
Here's what I'm going to say. At this point at 49, I don't give a crap about my weaknesses, right? I know I'm abrasive. I know I'm a go-getter. I know I'm going to go 100 miles an hour. I know I'm going to win, okay? I can't worry about the fact that I don't write very well. At 49, I can't worry about it. I got guys that do all my writing for me. They're going to help me out 1,000,000 times over. My dude, Bo, anything you've seen written, he done went through it 1 or 2 times, okay? So I don't think it's made me harder. I just think it's one of those deals. You either overcome it or you lose, right? Like I'm a big, you know, like, all I care about is winning. And really, I don't care about winning. I just care about not losing, you know? And so, like, when I went to the Naval Academy, I wasn't worried about none of the academic stuff. I was terrified about the reading and writing. But then I turned around, I didn't buy books in 4 years at the Naval Academy. So, like, for me, I don't think it made me who I am. I will say this: my kids read and write like superstars right now, okay? Because there's no reason to have something be such a great weakness if you can fix it and it can be a strength. Like, I got some guys now from the Naval Academy. One of my dudes is 10 times better than I am just because he can read and he can write eloquently. He can communicate his thoughts through written language, right? Like, it's a huge benefit to him. I ain't got that power.
So, Jake,